Welcome back to Mondays with Mom, the podcast where my mom Leah,
Hi,
and I, Jo, dive into her stories, experiences, and the lessons she's hoping I finally take to heart. My mom has always dreamed of turning her life into a book or a movie, and this podcast is our way of making that dream come true, one episode at a time. Right, Mom?
right, Joey, thank you for that.
What are we talking about this week?
Well, Joe, I think this week I wanted to focus on kindness. I was thinking about how many good and decent people there are out there, and I was thinking about how many times someone has done something really kind and awesome for me, and how when I've done something kind and awesome for someone else, how it always comes back. And obviously, I've got hundreds of these stories to tell, but today I wanted to focus on a particular one.
I'm excited to hear it.
Okay, here goes. Now, this story takes me back quite a few years, and it was round about the time that I was getting a divorce. And one of the people that stood by me through thick and thin was Toko, my housekeeper.
For our new listeners, Doko is a very dear person to both me and my mom. She's basically like my second mother.
Like Joe's second mother and like my lesbian lover, which you can find out more about in
our Beat the Bully episode, which if you haven't listened to that one yet, it's okay, you don't need that for context, but you should absolutely go listen to it after this episode.
Agreed. Toko stuck by me at a time that I don't think anyone else would have. So to give you guys a little bit of background, around about the time I was getting divorced, I had begun to save up some money. I had stopped working when you and Tina were born, and then I started picking it up slowly and seeing a few patients of my own, a few private patients. So I wasn't doing a lot of work, and it took me a while to save up this money. And I'll never forget the amount because it was exactly 10,000 Rand that I had saved. And at the time that I was getting divorced, now it felt like a lot of money to me at the time.
It still sounds like a lot of money because you're like, wow, 10,000.
It sounds like a lot. If I convert it to euros today, I'm looking at around 500 euros.
Which is very sad.
Which is very sad. What makes it sadder is that was the sum total of my worth in those days. And I remember this clearly because I had gone to see a divorce lawyer. And I remember walking into his rooms and asking him if he'd be able to help me. And he said, yes, of course, but you need to pay a deposit. And the deposit is, dun, 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 10,000 Rand.
Oh my word, like basically everything you had.
Literally every single thing I had at that point in time, I had to pay as a deposit. And this was a deposit. I didn't know how much more it would be later on. And he implied that this will last you for quite a while.
That's very vague.
It was very vague, and that made it very scary because I had absolutely no idea when he would ask me for more money. And if he did, I literally didn't have a cent to my name. So I had started looking for more stable work. I was working as a physiotherapist and seeing patients of my own here and there, but I thought, let me get a job where I'm working for other physiotherapists just so I can have a set, steady salary. One of the reasons why I needed the steady salary was because Toko had come with me. When I got divorced, she offered to come with me and stay with me. And I remember the first month looking at my bank balance and thinking how much money I needed to pay Toko. And I actually had to go to her and be honest and say, listen, Toko, I actually am not sure if at the end of this month and at the end of next month, I will be able to pay you a salary. I said, I will do my utmost and I will pay you before I pay anything else except my rent. But
yeah, it's pretty scary. I don't know how I would feel being in that situation if someone said they couldn't pay me.
It was very, very scary. And I understand why Toko was scared also because Toko had 2 of her own children that she was looking after and she needed the money. She also had her mother who was at home looking after the children for her. And Toko provided her mother with all her needs financially so that the mother could look after Toko's children. So definitely she was dependent on money. And I do remember that my sister stepped in, which I really, really appreciated, and said to me, listen, if you can't pay your rent, I will pay your rent for you, which was a huge, big deal and really, really helpful. And at the same time, my parents, my mom would come out every Saturday and would have gone shopping, and she would arrive with all these grocery bags and have food for me for the week.
That's really a major blessing, hey?
It was a major blessing to have family support that way, but it made me feel terrible. I thought I must have been around, I suspect, 32 at the time, and I felt really, really useless. I thought, how have I got myself in this situation? I'm educated. I should not have allowed myself to get to this point, and yet I did. And here I was suddenly, and Toko said to me that she's going to stick it out. She said to me, I hope you can pay me, but I'm not going to walk out on you, which was huge for me. It was absolutely huge because I didn't know if I could have done the same if people weren't paying me.
I think that's a very kind thing of Toko to do, and also shows just how much she liked you and wanted to help you out as much as you were helping her.
It was unbelievably kind and decent of her, and I'll never ever forget it. I do remember the very, very first day of my new job. So I had said to Toko, you'll look after my children. It happened to be during school holidays. I remember standing in the kitchen with Toko, and I was giving her instructions, and we were discussing what food she would feed you for lunch and where you would play and whether you'd go out that day. And suddenly Toko started swaying. She almost looked like she was unsteady. And next thing I knew, I went towards her and she collapsed, like crumpled into a heap, collapsed on the floor, unconscious.
That's honestly terrifying.
That was really, really terrifying. I had no idea what was going on. I had broken her fall, so she didn't hurt herself against anything.
Thank goodness.
Exactly. But there I had my first day of work. I needed to leave in the next 10 minutes, and Toko is unconscious on the floor. It was awful. Anyway,
So what did you do?
somehow I revived her. I don't even remember how exactly I revived her. I think I slapped her across the face and shook her, and I don't even know what I did. And she managed to revive. Oh, I do remember that I lifted up her legs.
Okay.
And as she started reviving, I semi-pulled her, semi-dragged her into the living room and put her on the couch and put her legs up on pillows. And it was the weirdest thing. It was very, very scary because I was leaving two children, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, alone in a house with a woman who's just fainted. And I had no idea what caused the fainting.
Did she have any idea?
No idea. And the weirdest thing is, I've known Toko, and we were together for approximately 21 years. And in all the years I've known Toko, this is the one and only time that she's fainted. She never fainted before that time and never ever fainted again. But at the time, leaving was really, really difficult. And what was most difficult for me is that I did have to go. I thought this would make a really, really bad impression for my first day at a new job. And all I did was, in between every single patient, I called Toko. And I think I worked that day for about 4.5 or 5 hours, and Toko received approximately 24 phone calls from me. You can just imagine, Jo, what that cost.
Yeah, I don't even want to imagine.
The phone bill I got at the end of that month was more than what my salary was. But it was something that needed to be done.
Yeah, definitely. You have to check in. You can't be in the dark just because it's expensive.
So at that point in my life, finances were really, really tough, and it was very problematic. I was worried from minute to minute that I wouldn't be able to make enough money, and then I wouldn't be able to pay Toko. And I thought, although she promised to stick by me, I knew that she couldn't do it indefinitely. She also had to look after her own children.
Yeah.
And this was a very, very difficult situation. I was also trying to spend as much time with my children as possible because you and Tina, Jo, were going through quite a rough time. You know, this whole leaving the home that you had been brought up in and moving homes, and now your parents are splitting up. It's not a small thing to deal with.
Yeah.
But over time, my job was going quite well. I was barely making ends meet with my private patients. What I would do is when my children, because they were visiting their father every second weekend, whenever they did that, I had then taken on another 3 jobs. And I was working 3 jobs every second weekend.
That's really hectic. Wow.
I actually don't know how I did it. I have no idea. I do look back sometimes and I think, was that me? Where did I find the energy to do that? But I think when you have that survival instinct that kicks in, and I knew that I couldn't let Toko down and I couldn't let you guys down. I didn't want to let my family down. I just somehow found the energy. But all those jobs and everything, a lot of it was going into paying the darn cell phone bill.
I don't know how you coped with 5 jobs at one point. Was it 5?
Well, I think I was doing my main job and then I was seeing a few private patients on the side. And then on the weekends, every second weekend, I took on hospital work. So that was working for other physios and I was working at 3 different hospitals. So I think that is 5 jobs.
So, and they allowed you to only show up every second weekend to some of these things.
For all of these things, because I was working shifts. So what I would do is I would tell them I'm available this Saturday and this Sunday, and I would go in and I would be working. I would end up seeing 20 patients. And in the hospitals, things go a lot faster because you're in one setup and you can go from this ICU patient to this one to the next one. And it works a lot faster. And somehow, I don't know, I was like an energized Duracell bunny. Has anyone ever watched that advert?
I remember those ads, yeah.
I don't know if non-South African people have seen it. There was an ad of this little toy that had these Duracell batteries in it. And they would show that this toy would be banging a drum. It was a bunny. And this bunny that had the Duracell batteries in it would go on for hours and had all this energy. I have no idea where that energy came from. And now, these days, I have no idea where it's gone. So I was working all these jobs. And I promise you, I could barely make ends meet. And I was working really hard. And then I had the incident where, over and above all my many issues, I don't know if I was working too hard, if I was too tired, if I was too stressed out, where I accidentally rammed my car into the gate of the complex we were living in.
I remember that.
And the whole thing about it was that they had said to me that although the complex is insured, it's not everyone else's issue to pay for a gate that I damaged. And so I would have to pay for this gate. And there was a levy that we would pay every month. And they had said that my levy will just go up by so much for the next 6 months until I've paid it off. And I couldn't ask the owner whose house I was renting to pay that. They would pay the standard levy. I had to pay the extra amount over and above.
That's so hectic.
I mean, they were decent enough to me to not force me to pay it in one shot, although how they could have forced me to pay it because I didn't have the money, and they did spread it out over 6 months, but it was just more and more stress all the time. And while I was busy working the one day, I got a phone call, and I used to always get excited when I would get strange phone calls because it was often from a new patient. One of the things I had done is I had gone to all the doctors that were in the area and I had taken business cards and said, listen, I'm a physiotherapist. This is what I do. In my spare time, I do home visits. That's how I would see my private patients. I would drive to their houses. That was another major expense of mine, was my petrol.
Yeah. I can just imagine as well.
I think the only phone calls I really used to dread were the ones coming from the lawyer. And I think every time he would call me, my heart would be fluttering and pounding, and I'd be so worried that my 10,000 had now run out and it was time to pay more money. But at the time, money was a huge issue. So I got this phone call and I was really excited that this is going to be a new patient. And when I started chatting and it was a new patient, my heart just sank.
How come?
Well, the lady that had called me started off by telling me that she needed help because her daughter had leukemia, which already I found deeply upsetting. And because her daughter was undergoing chemotherapy, she needed chest physio, but she couldn't go to anybody's rooms to get it done and couldn't go to a hospital to get it done.
Because she might get infected.
Because her immune system was suppressed by the chemo. And so she needed someone to come to her house, and she would need someone to come a couple of times a week.
Okay, so it sounds like a job description that fits you very well.
It sounded like a job description that fit me very well. And although I found the leukemia upsetting, then the next part came. And this lady on the phone said to me, "But listen, I really do need your help, but I won't be able to pay you."
Oh no.
And my heart sank. And she said to me, no. She said, "I won't be able to pay you for a while." She said that we've got some money issues. The medical aid has run out, and eventually I will be able to pay you. It might be 6 months, it might be 8 months. I will be able to pay you, but I won't be able to pay you right now.
So it's literally like how you went to Toko and said you couldn't pay her for a while. You might not be able to pay her. Like the same thing was happening to you.
It was exactly that. I was now put in the same situation. And the problem was, I was thinking, but I actually need to take on patients that can pay me because I need the money. I need the money, and Toko's children need the money. And I listened to this woman and I thought, how will I ever be able to live with myself if I say no?
Yeah.
Toko, funny enough, had said the exact same thing to me years later. Said at the time when she could see that I was divorced, I was on my own, I had these 2 children, she said she had the thought that she wouldn't be able to live with herself if she walked away from me.
Wow, like it's crazy how the situations were like mirroring themselves. There's a lot of similarities.
It is crazy. It's crazy that what I was asking of Toko, someone else was now asking of me. And it was weird because it was such a difficult decision and yet such an easy decision at the same time. Like I knew there was no doubt in my mind that I could never say no to this person. And I went to her house and started seeing her child, and they were both amazing people. In fact, this woman was such an inspiration. I'll never forget when I first met her, she had shaved off all her hair and it had grown back slightly. And she took her daughter and herself, they went to a hairdresser, or she had gotten some hair dye, and they had both colored their hair this peroxide blonde. So it was this, almost looked like it was done that way on purpose because she never wanted her daughter to feel self-conscious. So she did the same so that her daughter could feel this sense of belonging.
Oh, shame, man. That's very sweet.
An absolutely amazing woman, amazing family, and you'll remember them clearly, Jo.
Yeah, I do.
She too was a single parent, and her ex-husband had left her and had moved to Europe. She had another child as well, and after a while, her and I became quite close. We became friends, and I would start to, because I was going there so often, I would start to bring Jo and Tina with, let them sit in a different room. And she had a swimming pool, which the rented house we had didn't have one. And Jo and Tina would be swimming her swimming pool, and this lady would watch my children and her other child swimming while I looked after her daughter. And it was probably one of the best things I ever did. I learned so much from this woman, and I was actually really, truly humbled by the type of person she was. And in the end, I have to admit, I was really, really grateful to God that He put this woman in my path. And I think she was really, really grateful to me too, because she knew that I would look after her child and she didn't really have to worry about where she would get this money. She knew that when the money eventually came in, she would pay me. And at some point, she came to me and she told me that she needed to move. She was moving to Cape Town. Her and I had been seeing her in Johannesburg, but now she was moving to Cape Town because they had this new specific treatment for leukemia, and the best place to get this treatment was Cape Town. And they needed to move, which I was really, really sad because at this point I had made a good friend in her. And during the time we spent together in our many chats, she would complain frequently that her ex-husband wasn't really a parent to her children. He had left and gone to Europe, but what he did do is he would send his children gifts, all sorts of gifts. He would buy really, really nice presents and send them, and she would say to me that his presence would be a greater present than the presents he was giving.
That's very profound.
It is profound. And the place she was moving to in Cape Town was substantially smaller than the place she had in Johannesburg. And there were a lot of things that she couldn't take with her. And she came to me and said, listen, Leah, I've got these garbage bags, 4 of them, and they're just full of gifts that my children have gotten from their dad that I won't be able to take with me. So why don't you take these, and anything that you like in there, you keep, and whatever you don't like, you give away.
Wow.
And these garbage bags full of toys literally changed my life and my children's lives. Jo, I don't know if you remember it, but because I needed to work long hours, I had taken these bags, I had hidden them in the garage once I had gone through them. There was not a single thing that I didn't want to keep from the bags. They were awesome. In fact, one entire garbage bag, we're talking about these huge bags, was full of just Barbie clothes and accessories.
I remember.
Now, you guys must know that Barbie clothes are tiny and Barbie shoes. You can only imagine how many would be required to fill an entire bag. And this bag was full to the brim. And the other bags had more and more treasures. In fact, some of the toys that Jo and Tina loved more than any other toy they've gotten came from those bags. I would go to work feeling really guilty that I've left my children, worrying that Toko might faint again, which she didn't. And I would come back, search in the garage, and find a toy, one for Jo, one for Tina. And I would come in every day, and they would be so excited that I was coming back from work because they always knew there'd be a toy. And these toys were awesome. They were European toys, and they were toys that we didn't necessarily always have in South Africa.
Or could afford.
That's true, or could afford. And these toys ranged from soft toys to tea sets to electronic toys. I mean, they were really unbelievable. Do you remember, Jo, you had that aerial game?
Yes.
There's so many gifts that I could go back and tell you that you thought I bought and I didn't. I got them all from the bags. There's one particular toy that's actually stayed with us till now. Jo keeps it in her apartment, and I brought it with me all the way from South Africa from all those years ago. It was given to me in one of those bags.
What was it? I'm curious because I'm trying to think of what I have on display.
The Bop It toy.
Oh, is that really from her?
That's from her. That's one. There you go. That's one of the toys that was in the bag. So there's this little toy that has 3 features. You have to pull a handle or twist a handle or bang on this little drum section,
Yeah.
which is called bopping it.
Yeah, I think the actual toy is called a Bop It.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's such an awesome toy. It's awesome for hand-eye coordination. It's something that even adults can enjoy. And the particular one that she had given us was perfect because it had 3 sections. So Jo, Tina, and I would position ourselves where one person is bopping, one is twisting, one is pulling, and we'd scream at each other when the person would make a mistake and pull or twist out of time.
Those are fun times.
Fun times, and all because of this. And approximately 8 months after I met this lady, or 9 months, she paid me as well. And I already had felt that just knowing her and all these gifts she had given me were payment enough.
I have a question though.
Yes.
How is the child doing? Have you gotten any updates?
I have gotten updates. I think very recently I've kind of lost touch a little bit, but I have gotten updates, and she was doing really, really well. She's grown up to be a beautiful young lady and healthy, and thank the Lord, all the treatment went well.
Oh, I'm really glad. That's nice to hear.
And God is really good and really looked after us. And the weirdest thing was, although we had help, we had Thea Cleo helping us with the rent,
Mhm.
and we managed to take that over quite quickly. And somehow, I have no idea how it was, whether God was doing the taking some money and ripping it into lots of pieces and turning it into more money. Not that we were ever rich, but somehow we managed to always pay all those expenses. Toko didn't have a single month without her salary. And I somehow, through people helping and through all the work I was doing, managed to pay all my expenses. And my children had awesome toys all the time. So
And we had no idea of any sort of struggle that you were going through, Mom. It was you hit it very well.
well, I'm really glad, because I didn't want you guys to ever feel that. I felt this was my responsibility that I needed to take on. And I look back and see that moments like those, which were a real defining moment, have really changed me or shaped me into the person I am today. And I realize how absolutely grateful I am to all the people out there, because there were so many. There's so many more stories to tell. And also how blessed I actually feel.
So, Mom, on that note, what are some of the lessons that we can take away from these stories?
Well, I would probably say the first one is that trust in God, and He puts people in your path for a reason. Another lesson would be just be aware and look out, because blessings are not always completely obvious. Because we started off this podcast talking about kindness, I would say that one kindness leads to another.
It pays to be kind.
It pays to be kind. There you go. And finally, I would say friends and gifts appear in the most unexpected places.
And going from that, what are we grateful for?
Well, firstly, I think we're grateful that all the people we mentioned in the story are all well and healthy.
100%, yes.
I'm truly grateful to Toko for supporting me and sticking it out when things were so uncertain.
Mhm.
I'm also unbelievably grateful to my sister and my family for always being there for me and supporting me. And I'm very grateful for the opportunities that were placed in my path to encounter some absolutely amazing human beings that have literally changed my life.
Meanwhile, I'm grateful for all the presents that we got.
Listen, I'm also grateful for those presents. That Bop It game is darn awesome.
And I think the batteries have lasted like a decade.
I think that's 2 decades.
So, everyone, thanks again for listening.
I really hope you enjoyed this episode.
Make sure to subscribe if you haven't on whatever platform that you're listening to us on. And also make sure to follow us on our Facebook and Instagram for updates and cute throwbacks. And tune in next week for another episode of Mondays with Mom. Bye.